I have a story that I swore to take to my grave. It's about a moment so embarrassing, so completely humiliating that I've spent years trying to scrub it off my brain. For a long time, it just felt like some kind of stain that defined me in the worst possible way. But today, that ends because the story of my most mortifying experience is also the story of how I learned to stop being so afraid. And I think I'm finally ready to tell it. So, for you to really understand why this moment just shattered me, you have to understand who I was back then. Picture me at 16 years. I was basically a walking pile of insecurities, held together by oversized hoodies and this desperate secret desire to just be seen as normal. For me, high school was a social minefield, and my number one goal every single day was to be invisible. The absolute worst thing I could imagine was having all eyes on me. I was just convinced that if people looked too close at me, they would see what I saw: someone clumsy, anxious, and definitely not beautiful. My biggest fear was public speaking. I can't even contribute anything in a simple conversation. I felt like I was a nobody. My heart would pound, my palms would get sweaty, and my stomach would start doing gymnastics immediately I'm called to answer a question or even do something in front of people. One day, my 10th grade history teacher, Mr. Davison, decided that a full third of our final grade would be a solo presentation on the French Revolution, and this would take about 20 minutes standing in front of the class all alone. When he announced it, I literally felt the blood drain from my face. This wasn't a presentation, it was a scheduled mandatory nightmare for me. I spent the next 3 weeks in a constant state of low-grade panic. This one presentation became the most terrifying event of my young life, and I was determined to do whatever it took not to screw it up. The night before the presentation, I didn't sleep. I was just maligning lukewarm coffee and flipping through note cards, my handwriting getting shakier by the hour. I rehearsed my speech in the mirror until my own reflection looked as tired and scared as I felt. I figured if I could just control the words, maybe I could control the fear. The next morning, my stomach was just a solid knot of anxiety. I even skipped my breakfast and sipped another coffee so I could gather some courage. Walking into that classroom felt like walking to a scaffold. The air was thick with that specific smell of chalk dust and teenage boredom. I sat at the desk, my legs bouncing crazy, just watching the cloth tick down to my turn. Then Mr. Davison called my name. My whole body just went cold. I grabbed my note card with a hand that was visibly shaking, and I walked to the front of the classroom. The floor felt like it was tilting. I looked out to the sea of forces, some bored, some anxious, some curious, all of them staring at me. I cleared my throat and started. The first few words were just a squeak. I took a deep breath, tried again. The words started to come out. My body was in a full panic mode. My heart was a drum solo against my ribs, and I could feel sweat on my forehead. And that's when it happened. You know the kind of protest your body makes when it's unhappy with you, your life choices, like skipping breakfast and living on a pure caffeine and fear. I tried to ignore it. I gripped the side of the lectern, my knuckles turning white, and just focused on a protest of Napoleon on the wall. But the rumble turned into a sharp, sudden cramp that just stole my breath. I paused in the middle of a sentence, my eyes widening in absolute horror. I was trying to talk about the storming of the Bastille, but my own body was staging a far more urgent personal revolution. There was this split second, this terrifying moment where I thought I could hold it back, a silent, desperate negotiation with my own body. I began to shiver. Oh my God, I lost. I just couldn't do it. Felt like a whisper from behind. It wasn't loud, but it was undeniable. And the immediate sickening realization of what just happened. For a split of a second, the world went into a slow motion. My brain was just a white noise. And then the smell hit. I saw a girl in the front row wrinkle her nose. Then the guy next her. A quiet snicker started to ripple through the room, and it looked as if everyone was laughing at me. My carefully rehearsed speech about the French Revolution was gone. The only thing in that room was my massive, unbelievable humiliation I had. I was so terrified that in front of everyone, I pooped in my pants. My face was on fire. I think I mumbled something, but I have no memory of what it was. My vision tunneled. The only thing I could see was the door. Without another word, I dropped my note cards, which scattered on the floor, and I ran. I didn't just walk, I ran. I fled that classroom with a sound of laughter chasing me down the hall. That was the longest day of my life. I spent the rest of it hiding in a bathroom, just waiting for the final bell so I could get home without anyone seeing me. The walk home felt like a walk of shame where everyone knew. I was sure every passing car was pointing and laughing at me. The next few weeks were just a blur of avoidance. I faked being sick to stay at home. When I finally had to go back to school, the hallways felt different. There were whispers. Felt like everyone I passed by laughed at me. They even gave me a nickname, which I will not be repeating here. I ate lunch in the library. I took the longest possible route to every class to avoid walking past the history classroom. That moment did exactly what I was always afraid of. It made me visible, but for the worst possible reasons. It was like my deepest insecurities was just confirmed. And now, everyone had proof. Few years, the memory was my own private horror movie. Anytime I felt even a little bit of social anxiety, my brain will hopefully replay the scene in high definition. It became this secret I had to guard, a sort of deep, unshakable shame. I was certain that if anyone knew this story, it would be the only thing they would see when they looked at me. Years later, I was in my early 20s, out of dinner with a really close friend, someone I trusted completely. We were trading stories about our worst date ever. On a total whim, I decided to just tell her. My voice got quiet and I could feel that old familiar heat in my cheeks. I told her the entire mortifying story and I braced myself for the disgust or the pity or whatever. Instead, she just looked at me for a second and then she burst out laughing. But she wasn't laughing at me. She was laughing at just how upset the whole situation was. And then she did something that changed everything. She told me her most embarrassing story. A tale involving a job interview, a broken zipper, and a very awkward misunderstanding. And we just sat there, laughing until we were literally crying. That was the first crack of light. It was the first time I realized my most humiliating story wasn't some unique curse. It's just about being human and having a body that sometimes betrays you. That moment led me to look into things like self-compassion, which is really just the idea of treating yourself with the same kindness you would give a friend. I started to consciously reframe the memory. Instead of seeing that terrified 16-year-old as me, I started to see him just a kid going through something awful. I tried looking at the situation like an outsider, and from the outside, it wasn't just horrifying. It was also in a really dark way. I started to feel compassion for that kid instead of just shame. He wasn't a disaster. He was just a nervous teenager whose body picked the worst possible moments to melt down. So, why am I telling you and the entire internet this story now? Because for years, I let that memory hold me hostage. I let the fear of that one moment dictate how I saw myself. Hiding it is what gave it power over over me. It just took over in the back of my mind, a constant reminder of my potential for failure and embarrassment. And today, I'm done with that. Sharing this isn't just about getting it off my chest, an act of ownership. It's about looking that dark part of my past right in the eyes and saying, you happened, you are part of my story, but you don't define me anymore. There's so much power in that. I've learned that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the most real way we can connect with each other. We spend so much time creating our lives online, showing off the highlights reels and hiding the messy ones. But the truth is, the messy parts are where we find our common ground. Everyone has a story like this, a moment they wish they could just erase. But those moments don't make us unworthy. They make us relatable. They make us humans. Overcoming the fear of this story wasn't about pretending it didn't happen. It was about accepting it. It was about understanding that my life isn't just a highlight reel. It's a whole movie, complete with awkward scenes, painful parts, and yes, the occasional spectacular disaster. And that's okay. Wow. What an interesting story. The one he swore never to tell. And now that it's out here, means he has overcome it all. And it makes me curious about you. What's the moment that used to make you shrink? But maybe you can look back on it a little differently now. Let me know in the comments. Let's make this space where we can all be a little less perfect and a lot more real together. And if you have any real life story you would love to share with me, all details are in the video description. If you also love this story and want more, click here to watch. He said she was his grandma until I woke up at 3 a.m. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.